You're watching Canada AM on CTV.
From talking your way into a raise to getting that free upgrade and paying less for your purchase, well, most people underestimate the importance of negotiating in everyday life. Here to teach us some more on how to properly negotiate in any situation, Jim Thomas, author of Negotiate to Win, 21 Rules for Successful Negotiating. So, Jim, just to let you know, we don't have time for 21, so what do you think of 3?
Well, the top 3 would be certainly to remember to trade each concession that you make. Rather than saying, okay, I can do that, get in the habit of saying, okay, I can do that, but I need this in exchange from you. That's trading. Secondly, put on the table a more assertive offer than you're planning on getting. If you start asking for what you expect to wind up with, you're going to wind up getting much less than that. Also, by starting high, you allow the other side some room to kind of save face, because you can drop back and give them some concessions. And then finally, I'd say that there's a really simple technique called crunch, in which when you get an offer from the other side, you respond to it by saying, I like it, but let's talk about that. There's got to be something we can do here. Can you help me out with that?
Jim, you're not a great negotiator. You started with 21. I lowballed at 3. You were meant to give me around 10.
Well, it's your show.
I do have an advantage. You know, I have to tell you, though, it's something that culturally it's very difficult, I think, for North Americans more so than, I mean, I traveled to Morocco last year, and there people negotiate over everything. You're meant to do that, and I had great difficulty with that, as I think many Canadians and Americans do.
That's one of the biggest problems with getting people to negotiate better, is there's so much cultural lack of support for good negotiating. It's generally just not a good thing to do. It's a sign of bad breeding. It's not quite nice.
Yeah, it's almost like an inferred dishonesty. Do you know what I mean? That
Exactly.
Why don't you just be upfront and tell me what you want for this?
Right, exactly. But in fact, in many other cultures, particularly older cultures, it's seen as almost a form of social interaction.
And so you must, I'm sure you hear from a lot of people who do business internationally who do have great difficulties with this, and they're, you know, very open to your advice, because, I mean, you know, we're all dealing with one another, you know, globally now, aren't we?
Well, the more global we become, the more shocked Westerners, and particularly North Americans, are that the rest of the world negotiates like crazy, and we don't.
Any tips for people who want to negotiate for a car, for instance? I think that's when most people experience this.
It's pretty straightforward. First of all, decide on the car you want. Next, find out what the dealer really paid for the car. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. There's something called a factory invoice, which dealers will often suggest is what they actually paid for it. In fact, they paid considerably less than that. There are a number of websites now, and consumerreports.com is one, and I'm sorry, consumerreports.org, and they have specific pricing on Canadian cars. They'll tell you what the dealer paid for it, and then promise yourself you're not going to pay more than, say, $300 to $500 over that number. And then you have to avoid all the dealer gimmicks, the packs and the fees and undercoating and Scotchgard and the extended warranty.
Yeah, exactly. Jim Thomas, thank you author of Negotiate to Win. Thank you very much. Appreciate this.
Sure, you're welcome.
And coming up, Jeff prefers shaken, not stirred. We're going to check in with Jeff in the Dominican after the